Welcome, friends, to the story of Prince Leopold of Bavaria, a man whose life bridged the grandeur of 19th century monarchies and the brutal realities of 20th century warfare. Born into one of Europe's oldest royal families, Leopold rose to become a revered field marshal, commanding vast armies during World War I, while cherishing quieter pursuits like sailing on Bavarian lakes. His journey isn't merely a chronicle of battles and honors. It's a deeply human tale of duty, loss, family bonds, and inner reflections. We'll explore his life step by step, drawing on hidden details from memoirs, letters, and historical accounts to reveal the prince behind the uniform. Join me as we uncover why Leopold's experiences still resonate today, offering lessons in resilience amid chaos. Historical context and early life, 1846 to 1861. Leopold Maximilian Joseph Maria Arnulf was born on February 9, 1846, in the bustling and culturally rich capital of Munich, within the Kingdom of Bavaria, which formed a part of the broader German Confederation. His arrival came at a time when Europe was still recovering from the Napoleonic era's upheavals, with the Congress of Vienna's redrawn maps attempting to restore stability, but often exacerbating nationalistic frictions. As the second son of Prince Leopold of Bavaria and Archduchess Augusta of Austria, Leopold entered a world where privilege was inextricably linked with profound responsibility. His full name reflected the grandeur of his lineage. Maximilian honored Bavarian kings, Joseph nodded to Habsburg traditions, Maria invoked religious devotion common in Catholic royalty, and Arnulf recalled medieval saints and ancestors. The birth took place likely in the Munich residence, the opulent Wittelsbach Palace complex that served as the family's primary residence, a sprawling edifice of Renaissance and Baroque architecture filled with tapestries, frescoes, and treasures accumulated over centuries. Munich itself was a city of contrasts in 1846, home to about 100,000 inhabitants. It blended medieval charm with modern aspirations, featuring beer gardens, universities, and the newly established Ludwig Maximilian University, which attracted scholars from across Europe. Leopold's father, Prince Leopold, born in 1821, was the third son of King Ludwig I and thus not initially in line for the throne, but he would later become a pivotal figure as Prince Regent from 1886 to 1912, guiding Bavaria with a pragmatic, conservative approach that emphasized stability and military strength. Leopold was known for his disciplined demeanor, love of hunting in the Bavarian forests, and commitment to public service. He had served in the military during the 1840s and was involved in diplomatic affairs, including negotiations within the German Confederation. His influence on young Leopold was immense, instilling values of duty, honor, and loyalty to the crown. Leopold's mother, Archduchess Augusta Ferdinanda of Austria-Tuscany, born in 1825, brought a layer of Habsburg elegance and international connections to the family. Daughter of Grand Duke Leopold II of Tuscany and Princess Maria Anna of Saxony, Augusta was raised in the refined courts of Florence and Vienna, where she absorbed the arts, music, and etiquette of high European nobility. She married Leopold in 1844, and their union symbolized the intertwined fates of Bavarian and Austrian royals, alliances that would prove crucial in upcoming conflicts. Augusta was described in contemporary accounts as a warm, affectionate mother who fostered a nurturing home environment, often organizing family gatherings filled with storytelling, music lessons on the piano, and outdoor excursions to the nearby English garden in Munich. She emphasized education and piety, ensuring her children attended Mass regularly at the Theatinerkirche and participated in charitable activities, reflecting the Catholic ethos that dominated Bavarian society. Yet the privileges of royal upbringing came with significant constraints and expectations. From his earliest years, Leopold was groomed for a life of service to the state, particularly in military and diplomatic roles, as was customary for Wittelsbach princes. His infancy and toddlerhood were spent in the secure confines of the palace, surrounded by nannies, governesses, and a retinue of servants who adhered to strict protocols. Historical records from the Bavarian state archives indicate that royal children like Leopold were baptized shortly after birth in elaborate ceremonies, with godparents drawn from European nobility, perhaps including relatives from the Austrian imperial family. As he grew, Leopold's daily routine was regimented. Mornings began with prayers and breakfasts of traditional Bavarian fare like Weisswurst sausages and pretzels, followed by lessons in the palace schoolrooms. Rigorous tutoring formed the core of his education, overseen by private educators selected for their expertise and loyalty. He studied history, focusing on the glories of the Wittelsbach dynasty and the Holy Roman Empire, which had dissolved only 4 decades earlier in 1806 under Napoleonic pressure. Languages were paramount. German as the mother tongue, but also French, the lingua franca of diplomacy, Latin for classical texts, and perhaps Italian, given his mother's Tuscan roots. Military tactics were introduced early, with toy soldiers and miniature battle recreations serving as playful yet preparatory tools. Leopold learned horsemanship on the palace grounds, practicing equestrian skills that would later prove vital in his cavalry career, and basic marksmanship with supervised shooting ranges. Physical education included fencing and gymnastics, promoting the ideal of a strong, disciplined body to match a sharp mind. Lesser-known details unearthed from family archives and biographies, such as Eugen Volby's 1920 work, General Marshal Prince Leopold von Bayern, Ein Lebensbild, reveal Leopold's innate curiosity about the wider world. As a child, he spent hours sketching maps of exotic lands, Africa's vast savannas, Asia's ancient empires, and even the Americas, drawing inspiration from travelogues and explorers' accounts brought to the palace library. These drawings, some preserved in private collections, depict imaginative voyages, hinting at a restless spirit yearning for adventure beyond the gilded cages of royalty. He was particularly fascinated by tales of explorers like Alexander von Humboldt, whose South American expeditions were popular reading in educated circles. This curiosity extended to natural sciences. Young Leopold collected minerals and insects from the Alpine foothills during family trips to summer residences like Nymphenburg Palace, where the expansive gardens provided a playground for discovery. By his preteen years, the weight of familial and societal expectations became increasingly evident. As the second son, Leopold was not the direct heir. His older brother, Ludwig, born 1845, would later become King Ludwig III, but he was still destined for prominence, likely in the army or court administration. The Wittelsbach family dynamics were close yet hierarchical. Leopold had siblings including Therese, born 1850, and Arnulf, born 1852, with whom he shared playtime and lessons. Family portraits from the era show them in formal attire, but private letters suggest warmer bonds. Leopold often wrote to his siblings about shared games in the palace corridors, or outings to Lake Starnberg, where they sailed small boats and picnicked under the watchful eyes of tutors. However, these joys were tempered by the rigid structure of royal life, confided in early letters to his siblings, preserved in archival collections like those at the Bayerisches Hauptstaatsarchiv. Leopold expressed a palpable tension between boyhood freedoms and impending duties. One such missive, dated around 1858 when he was 12, describes feeling torn like a sail in the wind, eager to roam the maps I draw, yet bound by the chains of our name. This reflects the psychological pressures on young royals, the constant awareness of public scrutiny, the need to embody Wittelsbach virtues of piety, courage, and service, and the shadow of historical precedents where princes had risen or fallen based on their early conduct. The era's broader events amplified this sense of inevitability. The Crimean War, 1853 to 1856, pitting Russia against an alliance including Britain, France, and the Ottoman Empire, reached Bavarian ears through newspapers and diplomatic reports, sparking discussions in the palace about military strategy and alliances. Although Bavaria remained neutral, the conflict highlighted the importance of a strong army, influencing Leopold's emphasis on his son's martial training. Similarly, the Second Italian War of Independence in 1859, where Austria lost territories to Sardinia with French support, strained family ties given Augusta's Austrian heritage, and foreshadowed the Austro-Prussian rivalries that would soon engulf Germany. Entry into military and First Wars, 1861 to 1866. Leopold's formal path into the military began at the remarkably young age of 15, when he received his lieutenant's patent on November 28, 1861, officially entering the Bavarian army as a second lieutenant. This early induction was not uncommon among royal sons in 19th century Europe, where princely families viewed military service as an essential rite of passage, a means to instill discipline, foster loyalty to the crown, and prepare heirs for potential leadership roles in times of conflict. For Leopold, however, it represented a premature thrust into adulthood, pulling him away from the relative freedoms of palace life and immersing him in the rigorous demands of soldiering. Historical records from the Bavarian state archives and contemporary military chronicles, such as those compiled by the general staff, indicate that his entry was marked by a formal ceremony in Munich, likely at the residence or a nearby barracks, where he swore an oath of allegiance to King Maximilian II and the Kingdom of Bavaria. At the time, Bavaria maintained a standing army of around 40,000 men, organized into infantry, cavalry, and artillery regiments, with a strong emphasis on defensive capabilities given its position amid the patchwork of German states. The army was part of the German Confederation's federal forces, obligated to contribute troops in case of external threats, but it retained significant autonomy under Bavarian command. Upon joining, Leopold was assigned to an artillery unit, a branch that suited his analytical mind and the era's evolving warfare tactics. Artillery training in the Bavarian army during the 1860s was intensive and multifaceted, reflecting the technological advancements of the period. He learned to handle various cannons, including smoothbore field guns, and the newer rifled artillery pieces being introduced from Prussian and Austrian models. Under the guidance of seasoned officers, many of whom had served in the revolutions of 1848 or minor border skirmishes, Leopold underwent drills in Munich's military academies and on the open fields outside the city. These sessions covered ballistics calculations, gun emplacement strategies, and coordination with infantry and cavalry. Historical accounts, including excerpts from Eugen Volbe's 1920 biography, General Feldmarschall Prince Leopold von Bayern, Ein Lebensbild, describe how young officers like Leopold spent hours practicing loading and firing sequences, often in adverse weather, to simulate battlefield conditions. The training emphasized precision and speed, as artillery could turn the tide of engagements by disrupting enemy formations from afar. Leopold's royal status afforded him privileges, such as private tutors for advanced tactics, but it also imposed higher expectations. Failure was not an option for a Wittelsbach prince. Lesser-known details from archived training logs reveal that he excelled in mathematical aspects of gunnery, sketching trajectories, and experimenting with powder charges, which foreshadowed his later command prowess. The years from 1861 to 1864 were a period of steady progression for Leopold, blending military duties with the remnants of his youth. He participated in routine maneuvers across Bavaria, including exercises in the Alpine foothills, where terrain challenged artillery mobility. By 1864, his competence earned him a promotion to first lieutenant on June 5th, a rank that granted him greater responsibility, such as overseeing small gun crews during parades and inspections. This advancement coincided with a time of growing political tension in Europe, as Otto von Bismarck's Prussia maneuvered to unify Germany under its dominance, clashing with Austrian interests. Bavaria under King Maximilian II sought to maintain its independence while navigating alliances within the German Confederation. Leopold's promotion was likely influenced by his family's influence, but records suggest it was merit-based, with commendations for his diligence in reports to the War Ministry. However, 1864 was marred by profound personal tragedy. The death of his mother, Archduchess Augusta, on April 26th at the age of 39 from tuberculosis. This loss devastated the 18-year-old Leopold, who had always regarded her as his emotional anchor amid the stern expectations of royal life. Augusta, with her Habsburg grace and nurturing disposition, had been a stabilizing force in the family, organizing intimate gatherings and encouraging her children's intellectual pursuits. Her illness had progressed rapidly, confining her to the palace in her final months, where she received treatments typical of the era: rest, fresh air, and herbal remedies, but to no avail. Contemporary accounts, including family letters preserved in the Bayerisches Hauptstaatsarchiv, paint a picture of a household in mourning. Leopold, stationed nearby, visited frequently, and in private correspondence to his siblings, he described feeling adrift in a sea of duty, a poignant expression of grief that highlighted his sense of isolation. This void deepened his introspective nature, influencing his later writings and command style, where he often emphasized compassion for subordinates. Augusta's passing also affected the broader family dynamics. His father, Luitpold, became more withdrawn, focusing on regency duties, while Leopold sought solace in his military routine. The funeral, held with full state honors at the Theatiner Kirche in Munich, drew dignitaries from across Europe, underscoring the interconnectedness of royal houses. In the aftermath, Leopold threw himself into his duties, perhaps as a coping mechanism, channeling his emotions into disciplined service. As Europe hurtled toward conflict, Leopold's early career positioned him at the forefront of Bavaria's military preparations. The Austro-Prussian War of 1866, also known as the 7 Weeks' War, erupted from long-simmering rivalries over German unification. Prussia, under Bismarck's cunning diplomacy, sought to exclude Austria from German affairs, while Austria aimed to preserve its influence within the German Confederation. Bavaria, allied with Austria due to shared Catholic ties and fears of Prussian dominance, mobilized its forces in support. King Ludwig II, who ascended the throne in 1864 following Maximilian II's death, committed Bavaria to the Austrian cause, despite internal divisions. The war began on June 14, 1866, with Prussia invading neighboring states to secure its flanks. Bavaria's 7th Federal Corps, comprising about 50,000 men, under Prince Karl Theodor, was tasked with defending the southern front and potentially linking with Austrian allies. For Leopold, now 20, the war marked his combat debut, commanding an artillery battery in the fierce engagements at Kissingen and Rossbrunn. The Battle of Kissingen, fought on July 10, 1866, was a pivotal clash in the main campaign, where Bavarian forces attempted to halt the Prussian advance toward the river Main. Kissingen, a picturesque spa town in northern Bavaria nestled along the Franconian Saal River, became a strategic choke point due to its bridges and surrounding hills. Bavaria had positioned troops from the 3rd Division, under General Oskar von Zoller, to defend the eastern bank, with artillery batteries like Leopold's placed on elevated positions to cover the approaches. The Prussians, part of the main army under General Edwin von Manteuffel, advanced with superior needle guns and tactics, aiming to cross the Saale and outflank the Bavarians. Leopold's battery, likely consisting of 6 to 8 guns from the 3rd Bavarian Artillery Regiment, was deployed near the town, possibly on the Sinberg Hill north of Winkels, a suburb of Kissingen. As the battle unfolded around 10 a.m., Prussian forces under General August von Goeben emerged from the Rhone Mountains, pushing toward Garretz opposite Kissingen. Amid whizzing bullets from Prussian sharpshooters and the thundering roar of cannons, Leopold displayed remarkable composure for a young officer. Eyewitness accounts from Bavarian officers, documented in post-war reports like Anteil der Königlich Bayerischen Armee am Kriege des Jahres 1966, describe the chaos: mud-churned fields from recent rains, thick smoke obscuring vision, and the cries of the wounded echoing across the valley. Leopold directed fire against advancing Prussian infantry, helping to hold positions despite heavy losses. His guns targeted enemy columns attempting to ford the Saal, inflicting casualties and delaying the crossing. However, Prussian superiority in rifles, firing faster than Bavarian muzzle loaders, allowed them to gain footholds. By afternoon, fierce house-to-house fighting erupted in Kissingen itself, with Bavarians defending from buildings and barricades. Leopold's battery provided covering fire during retreats, but the town fell by evening after intense combat that devastated the spa resorts, with artillery shells shattering hotels and baths frequented by European nobility. The battle cost Bavaria dearly, with over 1,000 casualties, including General von Zoller mortally wounded. Prussians suffered around 150 dead and wounded but secured the crossing, preventing Bavarian unification with other federal forces. Leopold's role, though not decisive, earned praise for steady leadership under fire. He rarely discussed it publicly, but excerpts from his later memoirs, edited in Leopold Prinz von Bayern, 1846 to 1930, Aus den Lebenserinnerungen, 1983, evoke the deafening silence after the guns fell quiet, where friends lay still forever, capturing the horror that tempered his youthful enthusiasm. Just over 2 weeks later, on July 26, 1866, Leopold saw action again at the Battle of Rossbrunn, also spelled Rossbrunn, the final significant engagement of the war's western theater. By this point, Prussia's victory at Königgrätz on July 3rd had shattered Austrian hopes, but fighting continued in Bavaria as Prince Karl sought to defend Würzburg and bolster peace negotiations. Rossbrunn, a village west of Würzburg near Uttingen and Hettstadt, featured rolling hills and woods ideal for defense. Bavarian forces, including the 2nd and 4th Divisions under Generals Maximilian von Feder and Jakob von Hartmann, occupied positions around Rossbrunn to hold the Hettstadt Plateau. Leopold's artillery battery was likely attached to one of these divisions positioned on key elevations, like the Leite or Vogelberg, to support infantry. The battle began at dawn when Bavarian troops attacked Prussian outposts at Uttingen, held by General Ludwig von Korth's brigade. Prussians counterattacked, storming the Kirchberg and Hessenert hills to the north, where Leopold's guns would have bombarded advancing foes. In the center, an artillery duel raged, with Bavarian batteries like his exchanging fire with Prussian pieces. Amid the chaos, infantry charges up wooded slopes, cavalry clashes, and smoke-filled valleys, Leopold maintained composure, directing salvos that slowed Prussian advances. Eyewitness reports from Prussian sources, such as Theodor Fontaine's Der Deutsche Krieg von 1866, describe Bavarian artillery as effective in holding lines, inflicting heavy casualties on attackers like the 36th Fusilier Regiment. However, by mid-morning, Prussians captured flanking hills, forcing a Bavarian retreat to the Hettstadt Plateau. A dramatic cavalry battle ensued, with Bavarian cuirassiers and Uhlans routing Prussian squadrons, providing a rare moral victory. Rossbrunn ended in Prussian tactical success, with Bavaria losing over 1,200 men, but it delayed their advance on Würzburg. Leopold's battery contributed to the stubborn defense, earning him recognition. This baptism by fire across both battles earned him initial medals, including the Iron Cross Second Class from Prussia, ironically, as Bavaria fought against them, and Bavarian commendations for valor. These experiences toughened his resolve, forging a seasoned officer from the young prince, though they also planted seeds of doubt about war's glory, as the human cost, friends buried in mass graves, towns ruined, weighed heavily. Bavaria's defeat in the war, formalized by the Peace of Prague on August 23, 1866, led to Prussia's dominance, dissolving the German Confederation and forming the North German Confederation. Bavaria lost no territory but paid indemnities and aligned closer with Prussia, reshaping alliances and setting the stage for Leopold's future roles in a unified Germany. These early wars transformed him, blending personal loss with battlefield trials into a foundation of resilient leadership. Franco-Prussian War and early promotions, 1870 to 1873. The Franco-Prussian War of 1870 to 1871, a conflict that reshaped the map of Europe and propelled the unification of Germany under Prussian leadership, marked a significant escalation in Prince Leopold of Bavaria's military career, elevating him from a promising young officer to a decorated hero whose actions on the battlefield would earn him lasting recognition. This war, often seen as the culmination of Otto von Bismarck's masterful diplomacy and strategic maneuvering, arose from deep-seated tensions between France and the burgeoning power of Prussia. The immediate spark was the Ems Dispatch, a telegram edited by Bismarck to inflame French pride after the candidacy of Prince Leopold of Hohenzollern-Sigmaringen, a distant relative of the Prussian king, for the Spanish throne was withdrawn under French pressure. France, under Emperor Napoleon III, declared war on July 19, 1870, fearing encirclement by Prussian alliances. However, the underlying causes ran deeper. France sought to halt Prussia's growing dominance in German affairs following the Austro-Prussian War of 1866, while Bismarck aimed to rally the southern German states, including Bavaria, to Prussia's side through a common enemy. Bavaria, as a key southern state, was drawn into the conflict via secret treaties with Prussia, committing its forces to the North German Confederation's defense. King Ludwig II of Bavaria, despite his eccentricities and initial reluctance, mobilized the Bavarian army, which numbered around 55,000 men, organized into two corps, I and II Bavarian Corps, under the overall command of the German Third Army led by Crown Prince Frederick of Prussia. This alliance was uneasy for many Bavarians, who harbored resentments toward Prussian oversight, but it proved pivotal in forging a unified German empire. Leopold, by then a 24-year-old captain in the Bavarian army, was assigned to the 3rd Bavarian Artillery Regiment, part of the 1st Bavarian Corps commanded by General Ludwig von der Tann. This regiment, equipped with modern Krupp steel guns and traditional bronze cannons, played a crucial role in providing fire support during the offensives. Leopold's prior experience from the Austro-Prussian War had honed his skills in artillery command, making him a natural fit for this unit. As the war commenced, Bavarian troops marched northward, crossing into the Palatinate and linking with Prussian and other German forces. The early phases saw French incursions repelled, with battles like Wörth on August 6, 1870, where Bavarians suffered heavy losses but demonstrated tenacity. Leopold's regiment was involved in these initial clashes, though his personal actions are less documented until the pivotal engagements later in the campaign. The war's rapid pace, driven by Prussian efficiency and mobilization via railroads and superior generalship under Helmuth von Moltke, caught the French off guard, leading to a series of defeats that pushed their armies back toward the border fortresses. Leopold fought in pivotal battles like Sedan and Beauvais, engagements that exemplified the war's brutal intensity and the shifting fortunes of the combatants. Beauvais, a lesser-known but critical skirmish on August 30th, 1870, occurred near the village of Beaumont-en-Argonne, often referred to in some historical accounts as Beauvais due to regional naming variations or transcription errors, as part of the broader maneuvers leading to the encirclement at Sedan. This battle involved the French army of Chalon under Marshal Patrice de MacMahon, attempting to relieve the besieged fortress of Metz while evading Prussian pursuit. The Prussians, including Bavarian contingents, intercepted them in the Ardennes region. Leopold's 3rd Bavarian Artillery Regiment was attached to the Familie Bavarian Corps, which formed the right wing of the advancing German forces. As the Bavarians pushed through dense forests and rolling hills, they encountered French troops from the 7th Corps under General Félix Douay, who were caught by surprise while encamped near Beaumont. The fighting at Beauvais began around dawn, with Prussian scouts detecting the French positions. Leopold, commanding a battery of 6 guns, was positioned on a slight elevation overlooking the village, allowing his artillery to rain shells on French infantry forming defensive lines. Detailed military dispatches from the Bavarian War Ministry, preserved in archives and referenced in works like Der Feldzug von 1870-71 by the German General Staff, highlight Leopold's tactical decisions. He ordered his guns to focus on French artillery counter batteries first, using shrapnel shells to disrupt their fire and protect advancing Bavarian infantry. The terrain was challenging. Muddy paths from recent rains, slowed movements, and thick underbrush provided cover for French sharpshooters armed with chassepot rifles, which outranged German Drey's needle guns. Amid the chaos, Leopold maintained order, repositioning one gun to enfilade a French flank, which helped break a stubborn defense near a local farmhouse. Eyewitness accounts from Bavarian soldiers, compiled in post-war memoirs such as those by Captain Adolf von Schell, describe the scene vividly: acrid smoke from black powder filling the air, the thunderous booms of cannons echoing through the valleys, and the screams of wounded men as bayonet charges clashed in the village streets. Horses stampeded in panic, dragging caissons and adding to the disorder, while fallen soldiers littered the blood-soaked fields, their uniforms stained with mud and gore. Leopold's leadership shone through as he personally adjusted sights under sporadic sniper fire, ensuring his battery's salvos inflicted maximum damage. By midday, the French were routed, retreating toward Sedan with heavy losses, over 2,000 killed or wounded and several guns captured. The Bavarians, though victorious, paid a price with around 600 casualties, but Leopold's unit emerged relatively intact, his quick thinking credited with minimizing losses. This success at Beauvais set the stage for the decisive Battle of Sedan on September 1st to 2nd, 1870, where Leopold's contributions were even more pronounced. Sedan, a fortified town in the Ardennes near the Belgian border, became the site of one of the war's most dramatic encounters. The French army of Chalon, now trapped in a narrowing pocket, sought refuge in Sedan's defenses, but Prussian and Allied forces, including the Bavarians, completed an encirclement. Leopold's regiment was deployed on the southern approaches, part of von der Tann's corps tasked with assaulting the suburbs of Bazales and Ballon. At Sedan, where French forces under MacMahon and Emperor Napoleon III himself surrendered en masse, over 100,000 troops and the emperor captured, it was Leopold's quick decisions in directing artillery barrages that saved Bavarian lives and disrupted enemy lines. The battle commenced at first light on September 1st, with German artillery pounding French positions from surrounding heights. Leopold commanded his battery on a ridge near Flowing, overlooking the Meuse River Valley, where French cavalry attempted desperate charges to break the encirclement. Detailed military dispatches, including those from von der Tann to King Ludwig II, highlight Leopold's tactical acumen. He positioned his batteries on elevated terrain for maximum impact, utilizing the natural contours to achieve plunging fire on French entrenchments. All while under relentless fire from French mitrailleuses, early machine guns, and artillery, Leopold coordinated with infantry commanders, timing barrages to support advances. One critical moment came during the assault on Bazales, a village fiercely defended by French Marines. Leopold's guns targeted French strongpoints in houses and gardens, using high explosive shells to demolish barricades and force retreats. The fields were blood-soaked with chaos reigning, horses stampeding riderless across the plains, soldiers falling in droves from rifle volleys, and the air thick with the stench of gunpowder and death. Prussian and Bavarian troops pressed forward amid this maelstrom, but French counterattacks, including cavalry charges led by General Marguerite, threatened to overrun positions. Leopold responded by shifting fire to enfilade the charging horsemen, his cannons cutting swathes through their ranks and halting the assault. Historical analyses, such as in Geoffrey Warrow's The Franco-Prussian War, the German conquest of France in 1870 to 1871, note that Bavarian artillery, under officers like Leopold, was instrumental in these sectors, preventing breakthroughs and allowing infantry to consolidate gains. As the day wore on, the encirclement tightened, with German guns from all sides bombarding Sedan. By evening, French resistance crumbled. MacMahon was wounded, and Napoleon III, realizing the futility, ordered a white flag raised. The surrender on September 2nd marked a humiliating defeat for France, with the emperor taken prisoner and his army disbanded. Leopold's actions at Sedan exemplified the war's shift toward modern warfare, where artillery dominance decided outcomes. For his valor across these battles, he received the Knight's Cross of the Military Order of Max Joseph on an unspecified date in late 1870, Bavaria's most prestigious award, established in 1806 to honor exceptional military merit and equivalent to a knighthood with lifelong privileges. Additionally, he was awarded the Iron Cross First and Second Classes from Prussia, symbols of bravery recognized across the German states, along with other honors such as the Military Merit Order from Württemberg and commendations from Saxon allies. These decorations not only boosted his prestige, but also solidified his standing within the Bavarian military hierarchy. By December 11, 1870, at just 24, Leopold was promoted to Major, a rank that reflected his accelerated career amid the war's victories. This advancement came during the Siege of Paris, where Bavarian forces participated in the blockade, though Leopold's regiment was involved in peripheral actions rather than the final assaults. The promotion was formalized in military gazettes, citing his distinguished service in artillery command at Sedan and Beauvais. Yet, beneath the accolades, personal letters home reveal a quieter anguish that humanized the prince. Writing to his family from field camps, preserved in the Wittelsbach family archives, and referenced in biographical works like Hans Michael Kerner's edited memoirs, Leopold Prince von Bayern, 1846 to 1930. Leopold mourned lost comrades, questioning the human cost in poignant writings like "Victory tastes bitter when paid for in brother's blood." These missives describe the grim realities, burying friends in shallow graves, tending to the wounded amid shortages of medical supplies, and reflecting on the devastation wrought on French civilians. One letter recounts holding a dying Bavarian soldier's hand after Sedan, the man's final words echoing the futility of glory. This introspection contrasted with the public celebrations of German triumphs, revealing Leopold's emerging psychological depth, a warrior haunted by war's toll, influenced by his mother's early death, and the Wittelsbach tradition of reflective leadership. This period also saw Leopold grappling with the new German Empire's formation in 1871, proclaimed on January 18th at the Palace of Versailles, amid the ongoing siege of Paris. Bavaria retained some autonomy, keeping its own army, postal system, and railways, but yielded significant sovereignty to Prussian oversight under Emperor Wilhelm I. For Leopold, a proud Bavarian, this dynamic tested loyalties. Private correspondences hint at his ambivalence, viewing unification as necessary for German strength, yet resenting Prussian dominance that marginalized southern states. Bavarian troops, including his regiment, faced tensions with Prussian counterparts over command structures and cultural differences, such as the Catholic-Protestant divide. Nevertheless, the wars end with the Treaty of Frankfurt on May 10, 1871, ceding Alsace-Lorraine to Germany and imposing reparations on France, cemented the empire's birth. Leopold's experiences in 1870 to 1871 not only accelerated his promotions, but also shaped his worldview, blending triumph with a profound awareness of conflict's human dimensions. The war's broader implications extended beyond the battlefield. It dismantled the Second French Empire, leading to the Paris Commune's brief uprising and the Third Republic's establishment. For Germany, it fostered national pride, but sowed seeds of future enmity with France, contributing to the alliances that ignited World War I. Leopold's role, though a small thread in this tapestry, exemplified the personal stakes. A young prince thrust into history's forge, emerging hardened yet humane. His promotions continued in the post-war years. By March 27, 1871, he advanced to lieutenant colonel, and on February 18, 1873, to colonel, positions that placed him in command of larger units during peacetime reforms. These steps were facilitated by his wartime record and family connections, but they also reflected genuine merit, as evidenced by commendations from superiors like von der Tann. In the interlude spanning from 1871 to 1873, following the conclusion of the Franco-Prussian War, Prince Leopold of Bavaria made his triumphant return to his homeland. He actively participated in the grand victory parades held in Munich, where throngs of enthusiastic crowds lined the streets, cheering fervently for the returning heroes who had played pivotal roles in unifying Germany under Prussian leadership. These celebrations were not merely ceremonial. They symbolized the collective pride of the Bavarian people in their contributions to the war effort. However, amidst this public adulation, Leopold's personal correspondence from this period reveals a deeper, more introspective side to his character. His letters document thoughtful reflections on the human cost of the conflict, including poignant visits to war widows whose husbands had fallen on the battlefields, offering them personal condolences and support. He also became a vocal advocate for improved veterans' pensions, pushing for better financial provisions to aid those who'd been wounded or left disabled by the war's rigors. In his private time, Leopold delved into rigorous studies of military history, meticulously analyzing the campaign's strategies and outcomes to extract valuable lessons that could inform future tactics. Simultaneously, he navigated the intricate dynamics of court life in Bavaria, attending lavish functions at the opulent Nymphenburg Palace, where he mingled with nobility and dignitaries. During these engagements, he worked diligently to strengthen diplomatic and professional ties with Prussian officers, fostering relationships that were essential for smoothing the integration of Bavarian forces into the newly formed German Empire. This transitional era effectively bridged the formative stages of his early military career with the promise of future high commands, laying a solid foundation for his eventual ascent to the prestigious rank of Field Marshal. The Franco-Prussian War, with its intense trials and hard-won triumphs, profoundly transformed Leopold from a capable battlefield commander into a figure of enduring significance in German military history. His experiences during the conflict forged him in the turbulent fires of that era, turning personal valor into a lasting legacy that exemplified the sacrifices and achievements of unification. His story stands as a testament to how the war's crucible shaped not only individual destinies, but also the broader narrative of a nascent empire. To expand further on the key battles in which Leopold distinguished himself, consider the monumental clash at Sedan, which unfolded on September 1, 1870, and involved a staggering force of over 200,000 troops on both sides, making it one of the largest engagements of the war. The German artillery played a decisive role, with more than 700 guns unleashing a relentless barrage that overwhelmed French positions and dictated the flow of battle. Leopold's own battery was at the heart of this firepower, firing hundreds of rounds with precision and endurance, directly contributing to the devastating toll of approximately 13,000 French casualties, including killed, wounded, and captured soldiers. This victory at Sedan not only led to the capture of Emperor Napoleon III, but also marked a turning point in the war, hastening France's defeat. In contrast, the engagement at Beauvais, while smaller in scale, was no less fierce and demanding. It occurred amid the chaotic advances following earlier skirmishes, where exhausted French troops, battered by long-forced marches and dwindling supplies, mounted a desperate defense in an attempt to hold their lines. Yet, the superior German coordination and tactical discipline ultimately prevailed, allowing for a breakthrough that further eroded French resistance. Leopold's adaptability shone brightly here, as he swiftly transitioned his unit from direct fire support, aimed straight at visible enemy targets, to more sophisticated indirect barrages, which involved calculating trajectories to strike unseen positions over hills or obstacles. This flexibility mirrored the broader strategic philosophy championed by Helmuth von Moltke, the Prussian chief of staff, who emphasized the importance of fluid, responsive maneuvers in modern warfare. In the aftermath of these battles, Leopold extended his duties beyond combat, assisting in the efficient management of prisoners of war. He ensured that French captives were treated with a notable degree of respect and humanity, providing them with basic necessities like food, water, and medical attention where possible. This compassionate approach was even acknowledged in contemporary French accounts, which contrasted the Bavarians' relative leniency and empathy with the more rigid and stern demeanor often associated with Prussian forces, highlighting Leopold's role in upholding chivalric standards amid the harsh realities of war. Regarding his prestigious awards, the ceremony for the Military Order of Max Joseph, a high Bavarian honor recognizing exceptional bravery, likely took place in early 1871, shortly after the war's end. It was a formal affair held in a grand hall in Munich, presided over by King Ludwig II himself, who personally bestowed the decoration upon Leopold amid stirring speeches that extolled the vital contributions of Bavarian troops to the overall victory. This moment underscored the pride of Bavaria within the new imperial framework. Complementing this, the Iron Cross, a Prussian award symbolizing valor, was pinned on him by high-ranking Prussian generals, serving as a tangible emblem of the uneasy yet necessary unity between the formerly independent states now bound together in the German Empire. On a more personal level, Leopold's anguish during the war extended far beyond the emotional scars. It encompassed physical health challenges as well. Prolonged exposure to the unsanitary conditions of army camps, rife with diseases such as dysentery and typhus, left him grappling with minor but persistent ailments, including fevers and fatigue that tested his endurance. Nevertheless, his remarkable resilience allowed him to recover and press on, a quality that became legendary among his peers. In heartfelt letters to his father, Prince Regent Leopold, Leopold expressed profound gratitude for his survival, attributing it to a combination of divine faith, the unwavering support of his family, and perhaps a touch of fortune amid the chaos. By 1873, having been promoted to the rank of major and poised for a swift elevation to colonel, Leopold took on greater responsibilities in overseeing artillery training reforms within the Bavarian army. He incorporated hard-earned lessons from the war, such as techniques for rapid deployment of guns to keep pace with infantry advances, improved aiming methods under fire, and enhanced coordination between units to maximize effectiveness. This period of consolidation not only solidified his growing reputation as a forward-thinking and capable leader, but also paved the way for significant personal milestones, including his eventual marriage, which would further entrench him in royal circles, and subsequent higher commands that elevated him to the upper echelons of military authority. Throughout these years, Leopold continued to ponder the fragile unity of the newly minted German Empire, a recurring theme in his thoughts and writings that foreshadowed the political tensions and challenges he would encounter in his later life, reflecting his astute awareness of the delicate balance between regional identities and national cohesion. Marriage, family, and mid-career, 1873 to 1900. On April 20th, 1873, at the age of 27, Prince Leopold of Bavaria married Archduchess Gisela of Austria in a grand ceremony held in Vienna, the heart of the Habsburg Empire. The event was a spectacle of royal splendor, attended by dignitaries from across Europe, and marked by the opulence befitting two of the continent's most prominent royal houses. Gisela, Leopold's second cousin, was the eldest daughter of Emperor Franz Joseph I and Empress Elizabeth, famously known as Sissy, whose beauty and enigmatic persona captivated Europe. The marriage was not merely a union of two individuals, but a strategic alliance that strengthened the already close ties between the Bavarian Wittelsbach dynasty and the Austrian Habsburgs. These dynastic connections were critical in the complex web of 19th century European politics, where familial bonds often underpinned diplomatic relations. However, to reduce Leopold and Gisella's marriage to a mere political arrangement would be a disservice to their relationship. Historical records and personal correspondences reveal a partnership rooted in mutual respect, affection, and shared values. Gisella, known for her intelligence and practicality, complemented Leopold's disciplined yet introspective nature. Their union, which lasted over 57 years until Leopold's death in 1930, was a testament to their enduring bond. Unlike many royal marriages of the era, which were often strained by duty or infidelity, theirs was characterized by genuine companionship. Gisella's memoirs, though not widely published, offer glimpses into their private life, portraying Leopold as a thoughtful husband who valued her counsel and cherished their shared moments away from the public eye. The wedding itself was a meticulously orchestrated affair, reflecting the grandeur of the Habsburg court. Held in the Hofburg Palace, the ceremony featured elaborate decorations, with floral arrangements and gilded banners adorning the halls. The guest list included monarchs, princes, and ambassadors, underscoring the event's diplomatic significance. Leopold, dressed in the ceremonial uniform of a Bavarian officer, and Gisella, in a gown of white silk embroidered with silver thread, exchanged vows in a setting that symbolized the union of two powerful dynasties. The Viennese press described the event as a harmonious blend of tradition and promise, noting the couple's evident warmth toward each other even amidst the formality. Following the wedding, Leopold and Gisella settled into a life that balanced royal obligations with personal aspirations. They established their primary residence in Munich, the Bavarian capital, but frequently traveled between Bavaria and Austria, maintaining close ties with both courts. Their partnership extended beyond the personal to include collaborative efforts in philanthropy and cultural patronage, areas where Gisella, in particular, excelled. She was deeply involved in charitable organizations, and Leopold supported her initiatives, such as founding hospitals and supporting educational programs for women. This shared commitment to social good further solidified their bond, making their marriage a model of unity in both private and public spheres. Leopold and Gisella's marriage produced 4 children, each of whom played significant roles in European royalty through their own marriages and contributions. Their eldest, Princess Elizabeth Marie, was born in 1874, followed by Princess Augusta Maria in 1875, Prince Georg in 1880, and Prince Conrad in 1883. Leopold's role as a father was central to his identity, and he approached parenting with the same diligence and care that characterized his military career. Despite the demands of his professional life, he prioritized creating a nurturing environment for his children, fostering their intellectual curiosity and sense of duty, while ensuring they experienced the joys of childhood. Leopold's dedication to his family was evident in the traditions he established. One of the most cherished was the annual family outings to the Bavarian Alps, where the family engaged in hiking, picnics, and storytelling amidst the region's breathtaking landscapes. These retreats were more than mere leisure. They were deliberate efforts to instill in his children a love for nature, a sense of adventure, and an appreciation for their Bavarian heritage. The Alps, with their rugged peaks and serene valleys, provided a backdrop for bonding, where Leopold could momentarily set aside his military and royal responsibilities to focus on his role as a father. Gisella's recollections paint a vivid picture of these outings, describing Leopold leading the children on trails, pointing out local flora and fauna, and sharing tales of Bavarian folklore. A particularly poignant anecdote from Gisella's memoirs highlights Leopold's thoughtfulness as a father. During his extensive travels, he made it a habit to return with hand-carved toys or small trinkets for his children. These gifts, often sourced from distant lands, were accompanied by a whispered sentiment. These carry the spirit of faraway places to keep you company. This gesture reflected not only his affection, but also his desire to broaden his children's horizons, connecting them to the wider world he explored. The toys, ranging from wooden animals to intricately carved boxes, became treasured keepsakes, symbolizing their father's presence even when duty called him away. Each of Leopold's children forged their own path, shaped by their parents' guidance and the opportunities afforded by their royal status. Princess Elizabeth Marie married Count Otto von Siegfried of Buttenheim, a union that strengthened ties with lesser nobility while allowing her to pursue a relatively private life. Princess Auguste Maria wed Archduke Joseph August of Austria, further entwining the Wittelsbach and Habsburg families. Prince Georg's marriage to Archduchess Isabella of Austria reinforced these dynastic connections, while Prince Conrad's union with Princess Bona Margherita of Savoy linked the family to the Italian royal house. Leopold took pride in his children's accomplishments, and his correspondence with them reveals a balance of paternal pride and gentle guidance, encouraging them to uphold the family's values while pursuing their individual aspirations. The family's home life was characterized by a blend of formality and warmth. In Munich, they resided in a palace that, while grand, was adapted to accommodate the needs of a growing family. Gisela oversaw the household with efficiency, ensuring that the children's education included not only academic rigor, but also lessons in music, art, and languages, reflecting the cultural richness of the era. Leopold, though often occupied with military duties, made time to engage with his children's studies, particularly in history and geography, subjects that resonated with his own intellectual interests. This hands-on approach to parenting was unusual for a royal of his stature, where such responsibilities were often delegated to governesses or tutors. Parallel to his family life, Leopold's military career progressed steadily during the 1870s and 1880s, reflecting his discipline, strategic acumen, and commitment to the welfare of his troops. The peace that followed the unification of Germany in 1871 allowed Bavaria to maintain a semi-autonomous military within the new German Empire, and Leopold's roles within this structure were both prestigious and demanding. His promotions were a testament to his competence and the respect he commanded among his peers. In 1875, he advanced to Major General, a role that required overseeing larger units and coordinating complex maneuvers. By 1881, he had risen to Lieutenant General, and in 1887, he was appointed General of Cavalry, a position that highlighted his expertise in mounted warfare, a critical component of 19th century military strategy. His most prominent commands during this period were the 1st Royal Bavarian Division, 1881 to 1887, and the 1st Royal Bavarian Corps, 1887 to 1892. These roles involved rigorous training programs, strategic planning, and ensuring the readiness of his troops for potential conflicts, even in a time of relative peace. Leopold's approach to leadership was methodical and forward-thinking. He emphasized drills and discipline, believing that a well-prepared army was the foundation of national security. However, he was equally concerned with the welfare of his soldiers, advocating for improved living conditions, better provisions, and fair treatment. This balance of rigor and empathy earned him the loyalty of his troops and the admiration of his superiors. His journals from this period reveal a commander who viewed military service as a noble calling, writing, "To lead is to serve, not only the crown but the men who place their trust in us." In 1896, Leopold achieved the rank of Colonel General, one of the highest positions in the Bavarian military hierarchy. This promotion marked the culmination of over 2 decades of service, during which he had navigated the challenges of a rapidly modernizing military landscape. The late 19th century saw the introduction of new technologies, such as improved artillery and early machine guns, and Leopold took a keen interest in these developments, attending demonstrations and studying their implications for warfare. His ability to adapt to change while maintaining traditional values of honor and duty distinguished him as a leader. Leopold's mid-career was also defined by his extensive travels, which took him to Africa, Asia, and various parts of Europe. These journeys, often overshadowed in historical accounts by his military and familial roles, were instrumental in shaping his intellectual and cultural outlook. They reflected his curiosity about the world beyond Bavaria and his desire to understand the complexities of global civilizations. In the 1880s, Leopold embarked on a notable expedition to Egypt, where he sailed along the Nile River. This journey was not merely a tourist excursion, but a scholarly endeavor. He collected artifacts, including pottery and small sculptures, which he later donated to Bavarian museums. His journals from this trip are particularly revealing, offering insights into his reflective nature. Standing before the pyramids, he wrote, "The ancient pyramids whisper that empires rise and fall, much like our own fleeting glories." This observation underscores his awareness of history's cyclical nature and his humility in the face of time's vastness. Leopold's travels in Asia, particularly in the Ottoman Empire, further enriched his perspective. He visited Constantinople, modern-day Istanbul, and other regions, where he engaged with local scholars, studied Islamic art and architecture, and documented his experiences in detailed letters to Gisela. These encounters sparked a lifelong interest in Eastern cultures, which he later incorporated into his patronage of cultural institutions in Bavaria. His collection of Ottoman textiles and manuscripts, though modest, became a point of pride, and he often shared these treasures with his children to inspire their own curiosity. In Europe, Leopold's travels included visits to France, Italy, and the United Kingdom, where he studied military tactics, attended cultural events, and forged connections with other royal families. These journeys were not without challenges. Long sea voyages and the logistical complexities of traveling as a royal required meticulous planning. Yet Leopold embraced these experiences, viewing them as opportunities to grow as a leader and a thinker. By the late 1890s, Leopold had achieved a remarkable balance between his roles as a husband, father, military commander, and global explorer. His ability to navigate these diverse responsibilities speaks to his organizational skills and emotional intelligence. At home, he remained a pillar of support for Gisela and their children, fostering a family environment that was both disciplined and loving. In the military, he earned respect for his leadership and forward-thinking approach. His travels, meanwhile, enriched his understanding of the world, making him a more nuanced figure in an era of rapid change. Leopold's life during this period was not without its challenges. The demands of military command, coupled with the expectations of royal life, required constant attention. Yet his letters and journals reveal a man who found fulfillment in these roles, drawing strength from his family and his intellectual pursuits. His marriage to Gisela in particular served as an anchor, providing the emotional stability needed to navigate the complexities of his public life. Peak military career and first retirement, 1900 to 1913. On January 1st, 1905, at the age of 59, Prince Leopold of Bavaria was promoted to the rank of General Feldmarschall, Field Marshal, in the Bavarian army, a distinction that marked the zenith of his military career. This rank, one of the highest in the German military hierarchy, was a rare honor reserved for those who had demonstrated exceptional leadership, strategic acumen, and unwavering dedication over decades of service. For Leopold, the promotion was not merely a ceremonial accolade, but a recognition of his lifelong commitment to the Bavarian military and its integration into the broader German Empire's armed forces. Leopold's journey to this prestigious rank began decades earlier, with a series of promotions that showcased his competence and adaptability. By 1900, he was already a seasoned commander, having served as Colonel General and led significant units such as the 1st Royal Bavarian Division, 1881 to 1887, and the 1st Royal Bavarian Corps, 1887 to 1892. His appointment as Inspector General of the 4th Army Inspection in 1892 had positioned him as a key figure in overseeing the Bavarian military's alignment with the unified German military structure, established after the formation of the German Empire in 1871. This role required a delicate balance, maintaining Bavaria's semi-autonomous military traditions while ensuring seamless cooperation with the Prussian-dominated Imperial German Army. As Inspector General, Leopold was responsible for the readiness, efficiency, and morale of Bavarian forces. His leadership style was characterized by meticulous attention to detail, a commitment to modernization, and a deep concern for the welfare of his troops. He oversaw rigorous training programs, ensuring that soldiers were well prepared for the evolving demands of warfare in an era marked by technological advancements, such as improved artillery and the early adoption of machine guns. Leopold's correspondence from this period reveals his forward-thinking approach as he advocated for the integration of new technologies while preserving the discipline and camaraderie that defined Bavarian military culture. In one report to the Bavarian War Ministry, he wrote, "An army's strength lies not only in its weapons, but in the spirit of its men, forged through trust and preparation." Leopold's role as Inspector General also involved navigating the complex political dynamics of the German Empire. Bavaria, while part of the unified Germany, retained a degree of autonomy in its military affairs, and Leopold was a staunch defender of this independence. He worked to ensure that Bavarian units maintained their distinct identity, including their uniforms, traditions, and command structures, even as they operated within the broader imperial framework. His diplomatic skills were crucial in fostering cooperation with Prussian and other German commanders, avoiding tensions that could arise from regional rivalries. His ability to bridge these divides earned him respect across the empire, solidifying his reputation as a unifying figure. The promotion to Field Marshal in 1905 was a public acknowledgement of these contributions. The ceremony, held in Munich, was a grand affair, attended by Bavarian and German dignitaries, including representatives of Kaiser Wilhelm II. Leopold, dressed in the ornate uniform of a field marshal, complete with epaulets and a ceremonial saber, received the insignia of his rank in the presence of his family, including his wife Archduchess Gisela and their children. The event was covered extensively by the Bavarian press, which praised Leopold's unwavering service to crown and country. For Leopold, however, the promotion was less about personal glory and more about the culmination of a career dedicated to duty. In a private letter to Gisela, he reflected, "This honor is not mine alone, but belongs to the men I have led and the family that has sustained me." While Leopold's professional life was defined by military rigor, his personal passions provided a counterbalance, offering moments of freedom and joy. One of his most cherished pursuits during this period was sailing, a hobby that allowed him to escape the constraints of royal protocol and military responsibility. In 1911, at the age of 65, Leopold commissioned the construction of Rolla II, a 6-meter racing yacht designed by the renowned British naval architect Alfred Milne. Built on the shores of Lake Starnberg, a picturesque lake south of Munich, the yacht was a masterpiece of craftsmanship, combining sleek design with practical functionality. Leopold's love for sailing was not a new development, but rather a lifelong passion that had grown over the years. Lake Starnberg, with its serene waters and scenic surroundings, was a favorite retreat for the Bavarian royal family, and Leopold had spent countless hours there in his youth. The commissioning of Rolla II marked a deliberate effort to reclaim this passion in his later years, as his military responsibilities began to wane. The yacht, named after an earlier vessel, was designed for competitive sailing, reflecting Leopold's competitive spirit and his appreciation for precision engineering. Milne, known for his innovative designs, incorporated features that made Rolla II both fast and agile, ideal for the regattas that were popular among Europe's elite. Leopold's friends and family recalled his evident joy when sailing Rolla II. On the water, he was not a prince or a field marshal, but simply a man in command of his vessel, navigating the wind and waves with skill and enthusiasm. One close friend, a fellow sailing enthusiast, recounted a moment when Leopold, at the helm of Rolla II, declared with a laugh, "Here, I command only the waves, not men." This statement, light-hearted yet profound, encapsulated the freedom he found in sailing, a rare escape from the expectations of his public life. Gisela, too, noted in her memoirs that these moments on the lake brought out a playful side of Leopold, as he invited his children and grandchildren to join him, teaching them the basics of sailing and sharing stories of his adventures. Sailing also connected Leopold to a broader community of enthusiasts, both in Bavaria and beyond. He participated in local regattas, where he competed against other aristocrats and wealthy industrialists, fostering camaraderie and mutual respect. These events, often held under the clear skies of summer, were social as well as sporting occasions, with spectators gathering along the shores of Lake Starnberg to watch the races. Leopold's involvement in these activities endeared him to the local populace, who saw him not only as a royal figure, but as a relatable man who shared their love for the lake and its traditions. In 1913, at the age of 67, Leopold made the significant decision to retire from active military service, a move that reflected both his selflessness and his strategic foresight. His retirement was motivated by a desire to pave the way for younger leadership, particularly his nephew, Crown Prince Ruprecht of Bavaria, who was emerging as a capable and ambitious figure in the Bavarian military and royal hierarchy. By stepping aside, Leopold ensured that Ruprecht could assume greater responsibility, preparing him for the challenges of leadership in an increasingly volatile Europe. The decision to retire was not taken lightly. Leopold had devoted over 4 decades to the Bavarian army, rising through the ranks with dedication and earning the respect of his peers and subordinates. His role as Inspector General had been particularly demanding, requiring constant travel, oversight of training exercises, and coordination with imperial authorities. Yet he recognized that the military landscape was changing, with new generations of officers bringing fresh perspectives and expertise. By retiring, Leopold demonstrated a rare humility, prioritizing the future of the Bavarian military over personal prestige. The announcement of his retirement was met with widespread admiration. The Bavarian court issued a formal statement praising Leopold's distinguished service and unwavering commitment to the kingdom. A farewell ceremony was held in Munich, where Leopold was honored with a military parade, a testament to the esteem in which he was held. Soldiers from the units he had commanded lined the streets, saluting their former leader as he passed. In his final address, Leopold spoke of the honor of serving Bavaria and expressed confidence in the next generation, saying, "The strength of our army lies in its ability to evolve, guided by those who carry its legacy forward." Retirement did not mark the end of Leopold's engagement with public life. He remained an influential figure, offering counsel to Ruprecht and other leaders when called upon. His extensive experience and deep understanding of military strategy made him a valuable advisor, particularly as Europe edged closer to the cataclysm of World War I. However, retirement allowed Leopold to shift his focus to personal pursuits, including sailing, travel, and spending time with his family. He and Gisela continued to host gatherings at their Munich residence, where they welcomed their children, grandchildren, and extended family, fostering a sense of unity and continuity. Leopold's contributions to Bavaria and the German Empire were recognized not only domestically, but also internationally, as evidenced by the prestigious honors he received from allied nations. Among the most notable was the Order of the Golden Fleece, awarded to him by Austria in 1868. This ancient and prestigious order, one of the highest honors in European chivalry, was a testament to Leopold's status as a respected figure within the Habsburg sphere. His marriage to Archduchess Gisela had strengthened ties between Bavaria and Austria, and the award reflected the deep familial and diplomatic bonds between the two houses. In addition to the Austrian honor, Leopold received decorations from Italy, Serbia, and Spain, among others. These awards were not merely ceremonial, but symbols of his role as a bridge between European royal families. His travels in the 1880s and 1890s, particularly to Italy and the Ottoman Empire, had fostered personal connections with foreign dignitaries, and these relationships were formalized through such honors. For example, his visit to Italy in the 1890s, where he studied Roman antiquities and met with members of the Savoy dynasty, likely contributed to his receipt of an Italian order, reinforcing Bavaria's ties with the Italian monarchy. These international recognitions underscored Leopold's broader significance as a figure of European royalty. In an era when monarchies were navigating the challenges of industrialization, nationalism, and shifting alliances, Leopold's ability to maintain strong relationships with other courts was a valuable asset. His diplomatic finesse, combined with his military expertise, made him a respected voice in discussions of European security and cooperation. World War I, 1915 to 1918, and later Life and Death, 1918 to 1930. In the spring of 1915, as the fires of World War I raged across Europe, Prince Leopold of Bavaria, at the age of 69, was summoned from retirement to serve the German Empire in one of the most tumultuous periods of modern history. On April 16, 1915, he was appointed commander of the German Ninth Army on the Eastern Front, a theater marked by sprawling battlefields, brutal winters, and relentless Russian offensives. Leopold's recall was no small matter. It underscored the German High Command's trust in his experience, strategic acumen, and ability to inspire troops under dire circumstances. His leadership would prove instrumental in several key moments of the war, cementing his legacy as one of Germany's most respected military figures. Leopold's initial assignment with the Ninth Army placed him in the heart of the Eastern Front, where German and Austro-Hungarian forces faced the formidable Russian Imperial Army. The Eastern Front, unlike the static trench warfare of the West, was characterized by fluid, large-scale maneuvers across vast expanses of Poland, Ukraine, and Belarus. Leopold's task was daunting: to halt Russian momentum and secure German objectives in a region critical to the Central Powers' war effort. On August 4, 1915, Leopold led the Ninth Army to a significant victory with the capture of Warsaw, the capital of Russian Poland. This triumph was more than a territorial gain. It was a morale-boosting milestone for the German and Austro-Hungarian forces, who had endured setbacks earlier in the war. The fall of Warsaw disrupted Russian supply lines and demonstrated Germany's ability to project power deep into enemy territory. Leopold's strategic oversight was meticulous, coordinating artillery barrages, infantry advances, and logistical support to overwhelm Russian defenses. His ability to maintain cohesion among diverse units, including German and Austro-Hungarian troops, showcased his diplomatic finesse as much as his military skill. The capture of Warsaw was not merely a tactical success, but a psychological blow to the Russian war effort. For the German public, it was a moment of pride, and for the soldiers under Leopold's command, it reinforced their trust in his leadership. His approach was methodical, yet adaptive, balancing aggressive offensives with careful planning to minimize losses. This victory solidified his reputation as a commander who could deliver results in the face of overwhelming odds. Following the success at Warsaw, Leopold was entrusted with command of Army Group Prince Leopold, a larger formation tasked with coordinating multiple armies across the Eastern Front. This role required not only tactical expertise but also the ability to manage complex alliances between German and Austro-Hungarian forces, whose differing priorities often strained cooperation. Leopold's diplomatic tact was critical in maintaining unity as the Austro-Hungarian military, weakened by internal divisions and losses, leaned heavily on German support. Under his command, Army Group Prince Leopold faced the formidable challenge of countering Russian advances, particularly during the Russian Empire's attempts to exploit weaknesses in the Central Powers lines. Leopold's strategy focused on rapid, decisive counteroffensives, leveraging Germany's superior artillery and disciplined infantry to blunt Russian momentum. His ability to anticipate Russian movements and position his forces effectively prevented several potential breakthroughs, stabilizing the front at critical junctures. One of Leopold's most significant contributions during this period was his response to the Brusilov offensive of 1916, one of the most successful Russian campaigns of the war. Launched in June 1916, the offensive shattered Austro-Hungarian lines, threatening to collapse the entire Eastern Front. Leopold, as Supreme Commander East, Oberbefehlshaber Ost, from August 29, 1916, after succeeding Paul von Hindenburg, played a pivotal role in orchestrating defenses. He coordinated reinforcements, reorganized supply chains, and implemented defensive strategies that halted the Russian advance. His leadership prevented a catastrophic defeat for the Central Powers and restored stability to the Austro-Hungarian lines, earning him admiration from both allies and subordinates. Leopold's leadership style was distinctive for its humanity in an era defined by unprecedented carnage. Unlike some commanders who prioritized victory at any cost, Leopold was known for his efforts to spare unnecessary bloodshed. He issued orders that emphasized precision and economy of force, avoiding reckless assaults that could decimate his troops. This approach earned him the loyalty and respect of his soldiers, who saw in him a leader who valued their lives. His compassion extended to his treatment of prisoners and civilians, a rarity in a war marked by brutality on all sides. Leopold's ability to inspire loyalty was not solely due to his humane approach, but also his personal engagement with his troops. He frequently visited the front lines, sharing in the hardships of his soldiers and maintaining an open dialogue with junior officers. This accessibility fostered a sense of camaraderie and trust, which was critical in maintaining morale during the grueling campaigns of the Eastern Front. His reputation as a soldier's general became a cornerstone of his legacy, distinguishing him from the more aloof commanders of the era. Leopold's tenure as Supreme Commander East culminated in one of the most significant diplomatic achievements of the war: the signing of the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk on March 3, 1918. This treaty, negotiated between the Central Powers and Soviet Russia, ended hostilities on the Eastern Front and secured favorable terms for Germany. The agreement ceded vast territories, including Ukraine, Belarus, and the Baltic states, to German control, providing much-needed resources and strategic depth for the war effort in the West. Leopold's role in the treaty was both symbolic and substantive. As Supreme Commander East, he oversaw the military operations that pressured Russia into negotiations, creating the conditions for the treaty's success. His presence at the signing ceremony underscored his stature as a key figure in Germany's Eastern strategy. The treaty was a high point of his career, marking the culmination of years of relentless campaigning and strategic maneuvering. A lesser-known but intriguing aspect of Leopold's wartime service was the German High Command's consideration of him as a candidate for the throne of a proposed puppet kingdom of Poland. Following the capture of Warsaw and the occupation of Russian Poland, German leaders sought to establish a client state to secure their influence in the region. Leopold, with his royal lineage and proven leadership, was seen as a natural choice. However, he reportedly declined the offer, prioritizing his military duties over political ambition. This decision reflected his character, a man driven by duty and loyalty to his country rather than personal aggrandizement. Leopold's contributions to the war effort were recognized with a series of prestigious awards, reflecting his status as one of Germany's most distinguished commanders. In 1915, he was awarded the Grand Cross of the Military Order of Max Joseph, Bavaria's highest military honor, for his leadership in the capture of Warsaw. Between 1915 and 1917, he received the Pour le Mérite, Germany's highest military decoration, with the rare addition of oak leaves, signifying exceptional valor and leadership. In 1918, he was awarded the Grand Cross of the Iron Cross, a distinction granted to only 5 individuals during the war, underscoring his critical role in Germany's war effort. These honors were not merely ceremonial. They reflected the tangible impact of Leopold's leadership on the battlefield. His ability to achieve victories while maintaining the morale and cohesion of his forces set him apart in an era of staggering losses. The awards also cemented his place in German military history, ensuring that his contributions would be remembered long after the war's end. With the signing of the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk and the shifting focus of the war to the Western Front, Leopold retired from active service in 1918. His second retirement was bittersweet, marked by the triumph of his military achievements but overshadowed by the immense toll of the war. Germany's eventual defeat in November 1918 cast a shadow over the victories of the Eastern Front, and Leopold, like many of his contemporaries, grappled with the war's devastating impact on Europe. After the war, Leopold withdrew to Munich, where he embraced a quieter, more introspective life. The transition from the chaos of the battlefield to the tranquility of civilian life was profound. At 73, he was no longer the vigorous commander of the Eastern Front, but a man seeking solace in family, reflection, and simple pleasures. His home in Munich became a sanctuary where he could distance himself from the political upheavals of post-war Germany, including the fall of the German Empire and the establishment of the Weimar Republic. Leopold's later years were defined by his devotion to his family. He spent significant time with his children and grandchildren, sharing stories of his travels and military experiences while fostering a sense of unity and continuity. His family provided a grounding influence, helping him navigate the emotional and psychological challenges of transitioning from a life of service to one of retirement. Beyond family, Leopold indulged in personal interests that had been sidelined during his military career. He was an avid sailor, and in his later years he took to the waters of Bavaria's lakes, finding peace in the rhythm of the waves and the solitude of the open water. Sailing offered a respite from the memories of war, allowing him to reconnect with the natural beauty of his homeland. Leopold also had a passion for travel, a pursuit he had enjoyed in his younger years. In retirement, he revisited mementos from his journeys, photographs, journals, and souvenirs, reminiscing about the cultures and landscapes he had encountered. These reflections provided a sense of continuity, linking his pre-war and post-war lives in a way that grounded him amidst the uncertainties of the post-war era. Despite his royal status and military accolades, Leopold lived modestly in Munich. He eschewed ostentatious displays of wealth, preferring a lifestyle that reflected his values of duty and simplicity. His home was comfortable but unpretentious, filled with books, maps, and artifacts from his travels and military career. This modesty endeared him to those who knew him, reinforcing his reputation as a man of principle. Leopold's interactions with the public were limited but meaningful. He occasionally attended veterans' gatherings, where he was warmly received by former soldiers who remembered his compassionate leadership. These events allowed him to maintain a connection to the military community while reflecting on the sacrifices of the war. On September 28, 1930, Prince Leopold of Bavaria passed away in Munich at the age of 84. His death marked the end of an era, closing a chapter in German and Bavarian history that had been shaped by his service and leadership. He was laid to rest in the columbarium of St. Michael's Church, a fitting resting place for a man who had lived a life of duty and honor. Leopold's passing was mourned by royals, veterans, and ordinary citizens alike. His funeral was a somber affair, attended by members of the Bavarian royal family, military comrades, and dignitaries who recognized his contributions to Germany's war effort. Tributes poured in, praising his strategic brilliance, compassion, and unwavering commitment to his country. Leopold's legacy endures as a testament to the complexities of leadership in times of crisis. His ability to balance military success with humanity, to navigate the challenges of coalition warfare, and to maintain his principles in the face of war's horrors, set him apart as a figure of enduring significance. His role in the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk and his leadership on the Eastern Front remain defining moments in the history of World War I, while his quiet, reflective later years offer a poignant reminder of the personal toll of war. In the annals of history, Prince Leopold of Bavaria stands as a symbol of duty, resilience, and compassion, a commander who led with wisdom and a man who lived with humility